Hello, everybody.
Welcome to Aurora Connects. This is episode 5 for Thursday, April 1st, 2021, Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye. I am Aurora Theater Associate Artistic Director, Monique Williams, and as always, I am joined by Artistic Director, Josh Costello. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Dawn, how are you today?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm all right. It's a lot is going on this week, but a lot of good things are happening. You know, my daughter's going to go back to school in a couple of weeks. Berkeley schools are reopening, and you know, the good news maybe on the vaccine front. I feel like maybe there's a corner being turned. Maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, I think there's some exciting things coming up, and I'm so excited about this topic today.
Yeah, well, I, of course, am very excited about this topic today. And I encourage our friends watching at home to participate along in the chat, either on YouTube, where you can remember to hit like and subscribe to this channel and this video. And also, if you're watching on Facebook, and of course, friends, you can always send us an email at connects@auroratheater.org. That's connects@auroratheater.org. We always love to hear from you.
And if you go to auroratheater.org, you can purchase your ticket to listen to our audio drama of The Bluest Eye, which is coming out very, very soon. That's what we're talking about today. If you are an Aurora Theater Company member, you already have a ticket. You need to log in to set your date for listening to it. And if you would like to become an Aurora Theater Company member and get access to The Bluest Eye and also The Flats, the audio drama we did last fall, all of our other wonderful programming that we're doing this year, please do so at auroratheater.org. There's information about our membership program, and while you're there, you can click on the donate button at the top right and help us continue to tell the important stories for our community right now.
Thanks, Josh. We continue to make this episode also available in an audio podcast version. That feature may be going away, so maybe use it or lose it. But anywhere you source your audio podcasts, we exist there as of right now. So you can take us on your morning stroll, roll, walk, jog. This week, it's just Josh and I as we prepare to open our audio drama of Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, adapted for the stage by Lydia R. Diamond. So this week we want to talk about Toni Morrison. We want to talk about the novel. And next week, I believe, I don't know the exact date, but Lydia R. Diamond did sit down with Lily Janiak at the Chronicle to do a feature. So you'll get to hear from Lydia in her own words via the Chronicle at some point next week. We'll share that on our social platforms to keep you in the know. So I'm going to start us off with a quote from Toni Morrison herself, which really speaks to her impetus to write The Bluest Eye in the first place. If you find a book you really want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. And that's from Toni Morrison herself, often quoted. You might find that on a meme or a text post, as my daughter likes to correct me. I'm still figuring out the difference between a meme and a text post. But that is an often quoted Toni Morrison statement there. And she's went on record as saying that is why she wrote The Bluest Eye, because it's a book that she wished that she had available to her to read as a young girl. So.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, let's get into it and talk about Toni Morrison. So the impetus for all this is that we are about to launch our audio drama version of Lydia R. Diamond's stage adaptation of Toni Morrison's novel, The Bluest Eye, which Monique Williams here has directed and done a beautiful job. We were able to listen to the latest draft over the weekend and or in the last couple of days, and it's just so beautiful and so powerful. And we have an amazing cast, and our sound designer Elton Bradman and composer has just done an amazing job putting the music together. I'm really excited, and we may share a little clip or preview or two later in the episode, so stick around for that. But Dawn, you know, this is a play that we were going to produce this season as a live theater piece. When we announced our season way back at the beginning of the pandemic, when we still thought, oh, it'll just be a month or two and then we'll be back. This was in our season. We were very sad to lose it when we had to cancel that season. And so when we shifted to audio dramas for this year, this was one that we really wanted to do, and we were able to work out the rights to get it done. This is a project that you're really passionate about. Can you tell us a little bit about what draws you to this project and Toni Morrison?
Absolutely. So people have heard me say before, it is my favorite stage adaptation of a novel. Not that I've read them all. I've seen some stuff that Book It Rep has done, and of course, word for word locally. And I know the sort of lit to life philosophy, and I've seen really great adaptations. But this one feels so true to the novel itself in terms of retaining as much of the author's language as possible, the rhythms, the imagery is all really present, and still a very active, actable production where it doesn't just feel like only narration or just constant narration. Of course, Toni Morrison is sort of, our preeminent American author. And The Bluest Eye just turned 50 last year. We would have been producing it in its 50th anniversary year. So we got delayed by COVID a little bit. But I just think it's such a beautiful, beautiful story. And I think we don't have enough stories being told on our stages or in our audio spheres or on our televisions that really are illuminating Black women and girls, in particular, young Black girls. We are seeing more sort of coming of age stories being produced, certainly for television now, and there still seems to be an absence of those stories for Black girls. And when we went, when so many of the protests started last year relative to the Black Lives Matter movement gaining momentum, I actually was concerned that maybe Black trauma wasn't the direction to go, and I got a little bit skittish about moving forward with The Bluest Eye, because I want to make sure that we're also, having, Black hope and joy and romance and sci-fi and superheroes. But as the summer went on and we continued to look for stories, and the sort of invisibleness of Black women continued to be so pervasive, and there were a lot of murders of Black femmes last year, I thought, no, this story, the story matters, and yeah, there's trauma, and yeah, it's sad, but being a Black woman is complex. Our lived experiences are full of highs and lows and nuance, and we face a lot of disrespect, but we also have sisterhood and families and love and joy. And I do think that Morrison captures all of that in her novel quite comprehensively, and Lydia translates that very well to this adaptation. So that's why I kind of went in a circle with it and came back to it as being the right thing for us to do right now.
Great. So we're going to talk a lot about our production, and we're going to hear from our actors in a bit. But can you talk a little bit about Toni Morrison herself and her work?
Yeah. Well, Morrison was born in Lorain, Ohio. That's the setting for the Bluest Eye. I think, to the point that she says it's the book she wishes she had read as a little girl. So I think she goes to great lengths with The Bluest Eye to sort of capture elements of her childhood. She was born in the early 30s, sort of pre the Great Depression and pre-World War II. And she sets the novel in 1941, which is exactly when Morrison herself was 10 years old. So I think it's no accident that we're dealing with three young girls who are 9, 10, 11. But Morrison's quite well educated and was working many years as an editor. And she started writing Bluest Eye in 1965. But at the time, she was going through a divorce, and she became the single mother of 2 young children. So she sort of set it aside. And then 5 years later, in 1970, she revisited that work. So The Bluest Eye is her debut novel. And it sort of took a little time to ramp up in momentum, but it did get her some acclaim, and it afforded her the opportunities to continue to write. So I'm sure many people know her as the author of Beloved. Beloved went on to win a Pulitzer Prize. So she's quite celebrated author of many, many, many works, and is now considered, I think, in some circles, canon, and certainly made available in academic settings. I talked to one reporter recently about Bluest Eye, and he asked how I came to know Toni Morrison, and I think I was fortunate enough that I went to Berkeley High, and we had a Black Studies department at Berkeley High. So I was able to read Toni Morrison, but I want to point out that it was in the context of Black Studies, and sort of separate and apart from the major curriculum of a regular sort of American lit class. But I did read Sula in high school, which again, a heavy read. These books are heavy reading for young people, I think, but I did read Sula. And then around the same time in my youth, Beloved was released as a film starring Oprah Winfrey. So I was exposed to Beloved, and then in college for a short time I was a Black Studies major. So I've spent a lot of time with Toni Morrison's body of work that focuses a lot on Black women. It focuses a lot on the harm that the societal pressures that we place on Black women can cause. She deals with a lot of themes of self-harm, self-mutilation, themes surrounding suicide, sexual trauma, sexual violence. And so she has been criticized for that. She has met her fair share of criticism. And Bluest Eye for a while was on the banned book list, so wasn't even available for readers or made part of any curriculum. But Morrison has also written things that are not necessarily fiction. So my favorite writing by Toni Morrison is actually Playing in the Dark, which is whiteness in the literary imagination, where she actually sort of flips it on its head and talks about how white writers write about Black characters, or Africanism, as she calls it. And anybody who's followed her or watched any of these documentaries on her are probably familiar with the quote. She shared the story often about being asked why she didn't include white characters in her novels, to which she replied that she didn't need to, and nobody asks white authors why they don't include Black characters in their novels. So I mean, I could go on, but she passed in 2019, just sort of just before all the madness with the coronavirus and all that sprouted up. There is quite a remarkable documentary that PBS played. I don't know if it's still available on PBS, but I think if you have, Amazon Prime or some streaming thing, you could probably get access to it. But there's also a world of YouTube interviews with Toni Morrison that you could just bathe in all day. So I'll stop rambling.
No, I mean, I love listening to it. Her writing is so beautiful, and in reading the novel again, in getting ready for this production, I was really just struck by the empathy that she has for all of these characters, and how she gives us so much backstory for the characters, even the characters that do horrible things. You learn so much about them, and she clearly has so much compassion for everybody that she writes about, and she writes about them with such care and beauty. What else stands out to you about her writing style and what she does with language?
Well, I think what you said is spot on, that she is a wonderful, gifted poet, and that she's doing that thing of sort of capturing the natural essence, the natural cadence of her hometown folks, of the people that she knows and was around and was exposed to, while also sort of elevating the mundane to, just really what we would think of as a masterpiece in art. So the imagery is very rich. the dialogue is just, I mean, it's so sumptuous. And I mean, you know, her influences were like Virginia Woolf and Faulkner. So you can, I think, see that sort of Gothic influences in her work for sure. And I think it's worth noting, this doesn't go so much to like the actual micro of word choices or syntax, but she didn't think of herself as a feminist. She thought of herself in a term that was a sort of popular term among a lot of Black women who felt a little bit outside of white feminism, as a womanist, and that womanist has different values than the feminist. So when you say something like, "Oh, she shows empathy even for these characters who do awful things," I immediately think of Charlie Breedlove, who in the novel has quite a tremendous storyline, quite a tremendous arc that is essentialized for the play. But something that she talks about is that a womanist, you know, and then Black women have a long tradition of protecting their men. So it's sort of good, bad, and all the in between. This energy towards the collective, this energy toward trying to reconcile issues internally, I think is also very present in her work. So while also wanting to expound upon the abuses that Black women face, she does render a lot of empathy for the Black man as well, which I think is a tremendous feat, because you read a novel like The Bluest Eye, and the things that Charlie does are reprehensible, but as you are sort of exposed to what got him to that point, it might not be empathy, but I think there is a place for sympathy. And so I think that points to her craft, quite honestly.
And just understanding as well. You know, I mean, I feel like so much of what the novel does is places all of these acts and so much of the story in context, and it contextualizes things in a really powerful way, from the you know, smallest details to the character's backstory, and then even on the metaphorical level, when you, with the opening of the story is about the flowers not blooming, and that metaphor of the ground in which the flowers were planted, and what it could support and what it could not support, just carries through in such a powerful way throughout the whole story. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the adaptation and Lydia R. Diamond?
Yeah. You know, Lydia is a New England-based playwright. She's writing out of Boston these days. And, you know, I think she wrote Stick Fly, which was on Broadway, so people may know that. Smart People is another play that she did that's made like a lot of the regional rounds. For any of our local friends who maybe also see things at ACT, they were doing Toni Stone right at the time of the shutdown, but ACT was able to stream that production. So Lydia was doing a world premiere right here locally with us in the Bay. And so is an accomplished author in her own respect and own regard, and was commissioned in 2005 to do this adaptation, and worked quite closely with Toni Morrison and her representatives to come to this piece that really essentializes the novel. I mean, obviously the novel, if you tried to stage the full thing, would probably be 8 or 9 hour show. And so I think they collaborated to arrive at this thing that is such a perfect rendition of all the things that are being tackled in the novel. But of course, it means that there are characters in the novel that we lose. There are character storylines that are truncated. And so Lydia really makes the focus the three young girls, Piccola, Claudia, and Frida. For people who have experience with the novel, you'll recognize that Claudia is our primary narrator, and that remains the same for the play, but Lydia allows Frida to sort of take on that secondary narration role, where in the novel it's a little more omniscient. And so you really get a magnifying glass on these three girls, and the other characters become secondary and tertiary to what's going on for the young women.
But they all participate in the narration to some degree, right? There's something very theatrical about that choice that brings the novel to life and gives us insight into these into each of these characters. The way that a novel can sort of get inside somebody's head, the way that she combines narration with dialogue allows us to get into the heads of all the other characters too.
Yes, it's quite smart the way she does it. And so there are moments where the characters sort of narrate for themselves. So there's at the same time the like being in the moment, the reliving of it, and then the sort of out of body experience of the sort of expository sense of it. So you still get the interiority of the character, which sometimes you don't when novels are adapted to the stage and have to move at like such a rapid pace. And this one is paced really well and times out really well. And you understand Mrs. Breedlove, you understand her interiority in her own words as she sort of narrates for herself. You understand Charlie as he sort of has these flashback moments. And then the way we were able to cast this production, the same actor who plays Charlie plays Soaphead, who often is sort of voicing and sort of narrating for Charlie. So the gift of the audio drama too was what it allowed us to do with casting, so that the voice is really a powerful tool in how we're able to tell this story. Yeah, I'll be interested too to read Lily's article after she's interviewed Lydia, and what it will be like for Lydia to really revisit this particular piece, some 15 years after she wrote it, in the year after the novel's 50th anniversary, a year and a half after Morrison's passed, seems ripe for everybody to kind of just meditate on it again in this moment.
Well, you brought together a remarkable group of actors for this project, and I know you had a really amazing experience in the rehearsal. I could just, every time I spoke with anybody, there was just this glow of love you all had for each other, and we had a conversation, a salon with them for our members last weekend, and they were just also happy to see each other again. They were really a very passionate group. And let's introduce the cast. Can we go to that the actor intros clip from the promo? We're gonna get to meet the actors.
My name is Janae Simon. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I play Claudia and White Girl.
My name is Michael J. Asbury. I'm playing three characters. I play Daddy, Charlie, and Soaphead Church.
Okay, my name is Kathleen Ridley, and the characters that I play are Mama. I play Mrs. Breedlove, and I also play in the ensemble one of the women who kind of talk about the business of what's going on around town.
I'm Jasmine Malone Williams, and I'm going to be playing Piccola, and I will be voicing Maureen, and I will get to be voicing one of the women.
My name is Sam Jackson, and I play Frida, Darlene, and Ensemble.
So our audience will recognize some of those folks. You want to say anything about the cast?
I love actors. I'm in love with actors. I do what I do because I get to work with actors. I mean, I love designers too, but it is my tremendous sort of admiration for what actors do. So every project is special. Every project is like I fall in love with somebody, but the alchemy of this group was just so right. And I think coming off of a year of so much uncertainty and so much unemployment for so many artists, and the real fight for racial equity. I mean, right now, just the fight for racial visibility, right? Like just the literal fight that so many BIPOC people are in to like, see me, I am here, I have always been here. This group of humans together in a virtual space making art was just a dream come true. It was just so divine. And I mean, I wasn't just joking when I would say to them, like, we have to find the next thing that this exact group of people can do together. It was a love fest, and many of them have personal histories with one another, which made it even richer. But it just really was a dream. It really, the room was a dream. So thank you, Josh.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm so glad we were able to put this team together and give you the space to tell the story. Let's go to a clip from Jasmine Williams, who our audience will remember from Bull in a China Shop and the really delightful performance she gave in that show, which Dawn also directed last year. This is Jasmine talking about the process of recording this audio drama.
A beautiful thing that I have been reflecting on since we've closed is just how much it still felt like we were in this space working on this piece. You know, I think for me as an actress, an actor and an artist, it's that process time, you know. And I was like, oh my God, we have such a short process. Like, how are we gonna, you know? But it was every time we came, it was like coming to the table, you know, just like how we do in any show that we work on, you know. And
this was all over the internet, right? You guys all stayed in your own homes to do this.
All over the internet, all over Zoom, and Dawn was there, you know, guiding us like she would have done in the room. And it felt very safe. It felt very held. It felt like, it didn't feel like we weren't in space together, you know. And I guess because we kind of just got used to the Zoom thing, but it was just a magical process. And I think that goes to the words of Toni Morrison and the way that she connects things, and that everybody, it was just such a family piece. And I think we all had our own feel for each character, and everything that we felt, everything that was in the play, we've all like probably had experienced at some point in our lives. You know, if it wasn't directly, maybe it was like my family member or my, you know, my grandparent or my ancestors or something. And I think that just kind of made it real in the space for us.
I love them. I love them so much. I love them.
I was just watching Dawn watch that clip, and the smile on her face was incredible. Yeah. Oh, it was so clear. You know, this was from, so if you missed it, if you're an Aurora member, you can go back through your membership portal and watch the Center Stage Salon that we did last weekend with the cast and Dawn talking about the play. And I encourage you to do so. And if you are not a member, you can become a member and watch all of our Center Stage Salons. But yes, it sounds like the process was really a dream.
It was really a dream, you know, and I've been involved in many great processes. I live for this, but it was just the time. It just all came together, just like all the elements lined up so perfectly for this one.
Let's play another clip of the actors talking about the story. What the story is about.
Okay.
This play, The Bluest Eye, is about three little girls navigating their life in a racially charged world.
The Bluest Eye focuses on 1 year, 1941, when marigolds do not grow. And essentially, we're hearing these girls who have become women tell this story.
I don't think it's just one story. There's multiple, every character has like a background story, and it kind of humanizes each of them. which I love. And I think that is the plot of it. It's kind of showing us all who we are, but the reasons why we are the way that we are.
It's a story of the Black experience, and very strongly the story of Black young girlhood and how they are looked upon by society back in the 40s or so, and how society constructs them and impacts their own self-esteem and their image of themselves.
It's a story about, it's kind of a family story, I think. About a family, immediate and extended, and it has all the complicated realities that exists within.
Michael Asbury, I know you're watching, and I love that you have the Matrix background for your interview. It's so appropriate for the topic.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing about, doing the audio drama, is we did have to, actors were working from their homes, and, we weren't really thinking like, oh, we're gonna make a documentary and we want everybody to have these backgrounds, or, so it's kind of charming though, that like they let us into their homes in this way, and to be able to watch this sort of behind the scenes footage with the actors is also just charming. And so indicative of the generosity of this group of humans. And Michael had a dad joke every day, and he wowed us with different virtual backgrounds. So the Matrix was just one of many. There was also Wakanda. We might have been inside of an NBA game one day. I don't know. He has these wild virtual backgrounds.
All right. Well, you are also a master of the virtual background, Don. Yeah.
I try and keep mine theme appropriate. So these are marigolds, because the opening line of the play and the novel is that it's 1941, and in that year marigolds did not bloom. And the marigold, as you pointed out, Josh, goes on to be quite a metaphor for unforgiving soil, but also Piccola, talks about daisies and the beauty she finds in daisies, but that other people disregard daisies as weeds, and dandelions as weeds, and marigolds, daisies, dandelions, sunflowers are all part of the same flower family. And so I wanted blooming marigolds in honor of our topic today, because that was a very pervasive metaphor throughout the story, how Piccola is the beautiful dandelion or the beautiful daisy, but society might say that's a weed, and how through that she came to look at herself also as a weed, and how regrettable that is.
Yeah, that internalization of the, society's judgment is such a big part of the story.
Yeah.
Let's listen to a clip from the play. How about that?
Okay, I would love, why don't we listen to, because we're sort of right on topic in terms of Piccola feeling invisible. Why don't we listen to this Jakubowski clip? Jakubowski is a merchant in the novel who does not become a character in the stage play, but is referenced in the play. So we'll listen to that.
Mr. Jakubowski stands behind the counter and looks, but doesn't really see Piccola.
Hello, Mr. Jakubowski. He doesn't say nothing to me. Like he can't even hear me.
It's a total absence of human recognition. A glazed separateness right behind his eyes. Piccola has seen interest, disgust, even anger in grown male eyes. But this vacuum has an edge of distaste that lurks in the eyes of all white people. The distaste is for her blackness, because what else could it be? Is right there in his bottom eyelid.
composer, sound designer, is so gifted. And yes, he's layered in these noises, shop noises of Jakubowski going about his business, completely ignoring the young Black girl who's trying to make a purchase. And I think it's also sort of important to note that Morrison knew a young girl when she was at this age who wanted blue eyes, right? And so the title, The Bluest Eye, you know, borrows from this idea that Piccola wants blue eyes, and is a huge fan of Shirley Temple and wants to emulate Shirley Temple. And Morrison actually knew a young girl who wanted blue eyes and thought that blue eyes and proximity to whiteness, fair skin, would offer her a better life. And people who've read the novel are more familiar with Morrison's work or the history of Black film, may also know that the name Piccola is a kind of an Easter egg that Morrison has tucked in there, because in Fannie Hurst's novel, The Imitation of Life, which has then gone on to be a movie, there is a character, Piola, who is a biracial, multi-ethnic, mixed Black woman. Now I see the video's gone completely away. So I knew I was voiceover picture, but now I don't know if I'm voiceover anything, but I will keep talking. Piola, who is passing as a white woman who's making the political choice to pass. And so Morrison borrows from that name and sneaks it in here for Piccola, so that people who might have that foreknowledge can be reading along that thread in the novel.
Piccola is such an amazing character, and Jasmine does such a great job bringing her to life. I want to play another clip from the Center Stage Salon. This is Janae, who plays Claudia, talking about Claudia and her role as the narrator in the story. Can we go to that, Amanda?
Well, so I play Claudia, matched with Sam's Frida. And as Jasmine was saying, the story is told from these little girls' perspective. So I think it's this story of like these resilient little girls that are looking back at a very traumatic moment in time, particularly for Piccola Breedlove. And so Claudia is everyone that I aspire to be. She is precocious. She is all seeing, all knowing, and she's not afraid to use her voice. And so it's a really beautiful script that is able to transition from Claudia as narrator when she's young and trying to understand the world and bearing witness to this world, and then as you get a little bit older and you understand contextually what was happening, trying to make sense of it. And I love at the end when Frida and Claudia are talking, because they've been telling this story of the what and trying to understand the why of what happened to Piccola. And they have a moment where they say, this happened in our town. But it's also this, I don't know if it's a rallying cry or if it calls out, this is what's happening in our town, what's happening in your town? Like what's happening to the little Black girls that are vulnerable in your town? Or even when we talk about Charlie, who Michael plays, and how he went through a very traumatic moment when he was young, what's happening to the little Black boys and the little Black girls in your town? And it's this really beautiful mirror that Claudia and Frida are able to place for people as they recount what happened during one particular summer.
Yeah, that sort of speaks to what you were saying before about visibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've pulled a couple more audio clips, and
let's get to those.
Yeah, and one of them is this kindling moment between Claudia, Frida, and their father, who Michael also plays. So I'd love to just play that audio clip so you get a sense of how Janae is moving from Claudia, narrator Claudia, in the scene Claudia. It's such a touching little scene.
You need to make sure the wood is stacked perpendicular.
That's up and down, not sideways.
I knew that. I did.
What you need to do is make sure the pieces on top slant down so the rain slides off. Not going to stay warm on damp wood.
Daddy goes on.
And damp wood makes moldy wood.
And on.
And moldy wood's no good. Presents a whole nother set of problems. Remember, kindling goes in a basket under the shed.
And
kindling has to stay dry. And girls, remember, if it's not bigger than your ring finger,
it's not kindling.
It's not kindling.
Michael is just so perfectly cast in this role.
Well, and he talked about that at your Center Stage Salon, or made a snarky remark about that at your.
Yeah, I'm sure I did.
Yeah, it's quite challenging. I think he's the only man in the cast, and so I think it's quite challenging to have to pivot in the roles that he played, having to also play Charlie. So it's a nice compliment that he gets to play two slices of fatherhood. And so we see him as the McTeer father, where there is love and encouragement and sort of an investment in these young girls' survival and life skills, to sort of counterbalance Charlie, who just doesn't have the emotional maturity or facility to be that type of father, and shows up as a different type of man in the world. And I know it was challenging for Michael. He's the father of a girl, so he's raised a daughter. And so I know things in the play resonated deeply with everybody in the cast, but to have to show up and hold the space for us as women to talk about the things we needed to talk about, and know when to take space and when to make space and when to listen. And he and Kathleen, who play both sets of parents, have a long history together, as colleagues, as friends, and as co-stars. And they've played husband and wife and lovers and mothers and fathers. And so I think they had such a really strong bond as a pair, and such a long history as performers, that they could be our elders in the space, and they could offer that experiential wisdom in the space. And they offer a nice sort of counterbalance to one another too, just in terms of personality and temperament. So it's also just really amazing to watch the two of them work, and they're very open about sharing stories from their childhood and where they grew up, and so it wasn't like quite having Toni Morrison in the room, but there was like a difference in generation, for the rest of us. So it was closer to that generation in the room, and that also made the process really great. That sort of intergenerational collaboration, and how we sort of spanned so many decades of life and living. And some of us have only really ever lived here in Northern California, which is its own particular beast. And so to have people who have family and parents who are from the Midwest, from the South, who were part of the Great Migration, just was really enriching to the process.
Well, and I love too how the way the doubling works in this production, getting to see both sets of parents but have the same, just what a great opportunity for an actor to get to play both of those. And you've talked before, and we touched on this earlier, but about how this is a play that deals with a certain amount of trauma, but it's also a play where we see a family that is very loving, and you've talked about the sort of triumph that comes out of this play. And I love the way that the story can contain all sorts of stories within it.
Yeah, it's so true. I do think it's one of triumph, because it's one that's being told, right? So it means somebody made it to the other side. for a lot of Black folk, we rely on the oral tradition. We lean into our elders as storytellers. And so I think of Claudia, especially in the novel, but what Lydia does in this play is Claudia and Frida are the griots. They are the storytellers. So they carry this oral history with them. And yes, what happens to Piccola is devastating and gut-wrenching and heartbreaking. But there is a triumph to know that these two other young girls who grew up in the same community, part of the time they lived in the same home, they made it to the other side. They made it out, and they are now in a position to be the culture bearers, the story bearers, and share that. And that's what offers then the lesson to all the rest of us. And so in that, there is triumph. In resiliency, there is triumph. And it doesn't always feel like it in the moment. Like right now, we are in a very hard moment relative to race and politics and this virus we're all fighting, and it's a hard moment. But for those of us that are still here, that is a triumph. And so I do think that this is one of triumph, and I do think our audience, as they listen, will also experience the moments of sheer joy that exist for these characters, that these actors have really brought love and delight and a spirit of play to this work. So it's a beautifully complex story that does deal with some very heavy themes, but also points up, you know.
Mm. We have one more clip from the show that we want to listen to. Will you set us up for this one?
Yeah, this is the Charlie clip, as we've been talking so much about Charlie. And I think I'm a little partial to Charlie. I mean, like cancel culture would be like, Charlie is canceled. And I certainly condemn his acts, but the novel renders Charlie as such a complex character, and the play can only get like at a piece of this. And so I just picked a clip that's just a little bit of taste about the complexity of Charlie, without giving anything away for people who haven't read the novel and plan to listen to the play.
To go terribly wrong.
What you gonna do now?
Don't know. Just wander around, I guess. Maybe look for my daddy.
You know where he at?
Don't even know who he is. Aunt Jimmy once told me his name. Thought I might look around Macon. Probably won't find him. You want some more grapes?
No. We're gonna need to get back soon. My mama whip me if I come back late. Might whip me anyway because my dress all messed up.
The sun had gone. The smell of promised rain, pine, and muscadine made Charlie giddy. Turning his head to see where the moon was, Charlie caught sight of Darlene, huddled into a D.
Oh, yeah, mama gonna whoop me for sure. I'm all messed up.
A new emotion caught Charlie off guard. His giddiness was replaced with an emptiness. He had finally realized that Aunt Jimmy was dead, and the sudden absence of someone to whoop him took his breath away.
Yeah, Elton coming in with the music right there, just right.
Oh, it's beautifully scored. It's beautifully scored. I mean, I really wrote to Elton. I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to have more notes for you, but I simply don't. These are my few little notes. He just came in with the magic sauce and just did it. So great.
We're starting to get towards the end of our time, but there's one more clip I want to be sure we get to of the actors talking about this play, and it's the actors talking about what they would say to Piccola. And I think what they have to say in response to that is just so touching. So let's anything you want to say about that clip before we get to it?
Yeah, I just love it.
All right, let's go to that.
If I could speak to Piccola right now, I would tell her that she is loved. And I think I would also go beyond that. I would speak to her community. I would speak to her parents. I would speak to her teachers. I would speak to her friends and encourage them to really stand up and be there for her.
First of all, I would tell her that she matters and that her life matters and that she doesn't need to make herself invisible, that she can take up all the space she wants and all the space she needs, and that we won't think she's more special when she has blue eyes or blonde hair, and that, you know, it ends bad for Shirley Temple too. So, you know, I would really tell her that, like, she is enough as she is.
I think I would just say I love her, and that I see her. So I think I would just apologize to her and tell her how beautiful she is, you know, and affirm her and acknowledge her and speak to her and say that she's not the only one.
I would say, I see you. I love you. You are beautiful. Your big brown eyes are the universe. They hold the universe. And you have so much to give. And I would squeeze her and I would adopt her.
If I could speak to Piccola right now, I would say that you are beautiful with your natural born eyes, and that you're bright and sensitive, and you have the potential to live a marvelous life.
I can't wait to share this story with everybody. It's coming soon.
Next week?
Next week. Any last thoughts you want to share, Dawn?
Well, I'm just thankful that you gave me so much space to hype up the audio drama and to just sort of nerd out about Toni Morrison and blabber on about how much I love this cast of actors.
Well, I'm very, very happy to give you all the space that you want for that. Yeah, no, this is, I feel so lucky to be around you and to be around this amazing group of artists, and to be in the company of this incredible story. Just so proud of what we're doing here. So thank you, Dawn, for all the hard work and all the remarkable work that you've done with this team and creating the environment in which all that love could happen among the cast, and for telling the story so beautifully.
Thank you. Well, single tickets are already on sale.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you don't have a membership, which you still can get at a nice prorated rate and still have access to so many wonderful things we did this year. But we are also doing single tickets. And also special things can be arranged for student groups. My dogs went berserk. They hardly ever do that during Aurora Connects, but we also can arrange things for student groups and community organizations. If people want more information about that, they can reach out to us at connects@auroratheater.org or our box office email.
Yep. And Berkeley High is already working that out. So we're going to
Berkeley High, Laney College. So we have some things in the works.
All right. Yeah. So when you get your ticket, you're going to get a particular date to listen to the story, and you'll have it'll start at noon. You'll have a 24-hour window starting at noon to listen to it through our website. So please go to auroratheater.org and check it out. And again, while you're there, you can donate to Aurora Theater Company and help us keep doing this amazing work and help us get back to doing work on our stage, hopefully sometime soon.
Yeah, this calendar year, if all goes according to plan.
Mm-hmm.
So we're hopeful. We're all doing our part, and waiting our turn for appropriate vaccinations. So, Josh, who's our shout out this week? Who are we shouting out?
Today, we are shouting out the Museum of the African Diaspora, a contemporary art museum which celebrates Black cultures ignites challenging conversations, and inspires learning through the global lens of the African diaspora. Their focus spans the African diaspora across history, from the diaspora at the origin of human existence through the contemporary African diaspora that has affected communities and cultures around the world.
Great. MOAD for short. So our next episode is going to be a special episode in 2 weeks' time. Remember, we're now every other Thursday at 5 p.m. And we are doing another town hall. If you remember just over a year ago, last March, right before the shutdown, we did a town hall. Welcome to our space. We are going to do a virtual town hall called Welcome to Our Space, this time with a focus on virtual spaces. And what we've experienced over the past year in these virtual spaces, how we can be better citizens and community members in these virtual spaces, as even as we move towards getting back in live theater, these virtual spaces are not likely to go away. We are likely to continue to inhabit some of these virtual spaces. So this will be a special sort of episode of Connects. You can join us here as you always do via Facebook, via YouTube, but we also are inviting folks to register to be in the Zoom meeting with us live. That registration form will go live on our website in just a little bit of time. We'll make some big announcement, I'm sure. So we can have a certain number of participants join us on Zoom, be with us live in the meeting, ask questions. It's meant to be immersive and fully participatory. If that's not your jam, you can still just catch us here. We will still stream to YouTube and Facebook if that's where you're watching. You can still participate in those chats if that's what you would rather do. But we do want to be as inviting and open as possible in this virtual world as we can. We are partnering with Z Space, Theater Bay Area, Shotgun, Calling Up Justice. We will have a story circle. We will have moderators, Claudia Alec, Lee Rondon Davis. These are our friends that joined us as panelists last year. So we do hope that you will tune in on April 15th for that. And you can find more information about registration if you want to be in the Zoom room where it happens, on our website in probably early next week.
Yeah, the town hall last year was just a really great conversation, and a lot of people attended, really wanted to talk about how we all behave in public spaces together. And we talked about microaggressions, we talked about all kinds of stuff, and ultimately it's about how do we make our spaces really welcoming for everybody, and what are our responsibilities, what are our roles, what is the audience's responsibility, how does that all work, how can we create a space where everybody feels welcome. So I really hope you'll join us for that.
Yes, so thank you for watching today. Feel free to email us at connects@auroratheater.com if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. And until the April 15th town hall, thanks for staying connected. Bye, everyone.